Yeah.
Yeah, if it gets loud, then I'll put it in.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Ready? Let's go start. All right. Welcome to 42 Grams, Two Souls, One Journey, a raw and unedited look at our lives as humans, based on the 21-gram experiment. A scientist by the name of Duncan MacDougall in 1907 concluded that the human soul weighs 21 grams. In this podcast, we will explore that no matter what our lives look like on paper, our souls journey similarly. Oh my God. So this episode comes with a laughter warning because no one makes me laugh like this woman does. And just prepare yourselves. That's all I have to say. In this episode, we're speaking to the personification of Walk with Purpose, the only biological female member of the Naheed Kheraj X Club, my sister from another mister, but really, since we all come from one soul, I'd say my soul sister from the same mother, the one, the only yoga goddess, Zahra Haji.
Oh
Good
my
morning.
God, what a nice introduction.
I had so much fun writing it, and I feel like I could have written 20 million more things about it. I feel like we met 2 decades ago. I can't remember the exact time,
I
but
do.
oh, do you? Okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Why don't you share that? Why didn't we start with you? Do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah. I totally remember the first time I saw you. You were probably 15, I think.
Okay.
You were with what was his name? The guy with the black guy with the dreads that moved to Ottawa?
Oren.
Oren.
Yeah.
You were with Oren on a dance floor, busting a move.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. I was trying to go back to when we met, but all I have, I don't remember the exact date. I have all these really great memories of TIFF, dinners, like these larger than life moments that I don't think I was ready for at my age. But you were the introduction to all of those. Wow, on the dance floor. That makes sense. Yeah.
And I don't think Oren was ever your boyfriend, was he?
No, Oren is my other soul sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a real groove and sweetness between you two.
Yeah.
And I don't know why that memory is etched in my mind of you two on the dance floor.
We both came out at the same time. We were born a year and a few days apart from each other. Our lives mimic each other so much. Father was both our best friends. We're both Leos within a few days. He came out a day or two before I did. The parallel of life when him and I get to divulge it will be so interesting. But so much of our lives are exactly the same. And he probably would be the most opposite of looking of me. But he will definitely reiterate that our two souls are journeying the same way. Okay, so I feel like I should let our audience know that this episode is completely guided by intuition. I had somebody else planned to go today, and I'll video them tomorrow, actually. But something in my head was you have to, I had to talk to Zahra today. So Zahra studied numerology, and I feel like in our whole relationship, we talk about the 11/11 phenomenon all the time. And when I asked you, and I was like, okay, oh my God, November 11th, 11 o'clock on 2020. And I was like, I don't know what any of this means, but I was like, it all adds up to 11/11. And I was like, Zahra, help. We need to talk about it. And you were so not, you were like, yep, let's do it. Let's talk. And I was like, okay. So let me hand it over to you. Tell us, what is 11/11? Okay, so what is numerology? Let's start with the most basic. What is numerology for those of us who don't know about numerology?
Okay. Well, a lot of people would Western numerology. A lot of people will think of Dan Millman. He wrote a book called, what's it called? Where's I don't see it. Something like The Purpose of Your Life, or in Western numerology has a lot of parallels to what I studied, which is yogic numerology.
Okay.
And so my system of numerology that I learned is actually from the let's call it the legacy, or the, how do you say, roots of Kundalini yoga. And so the teacher that I studied with, his name is Yogi Akal. And the whole point of yogic numerology that I learned is that you look at numerology as kind of like a template that you were brought into the world with.
Okay.
And then you look for places of growth and expansion, and you use prescriptive yoga and meditation to help you to grow in the different ways that you might be at different points in your life, right? So for example, you hear a lot in astrology about the Saturn return, and I am by no means an astrologer, so I just want to put that out there. So for the first quarter essentially of your life, so Saturn return is usually around between 25 and 30 is our Saturn return. And oftentimes it's that sort of first part of your life, the big struggle is what you're here to learn. Like what's that big lesson of your life? And so numerology looks at that as your month of birth is the big lesson of your life. And then it also, so it answers the question, what am I learning and mastering? And then the day of your birth answers the question, who am I? And the last two digits of your year of birth answers the question, why am I here, or what's my destiny? And then the full year of your birth answers the question, what's the minimum I have to do in my life? And it kind of talks a little bit of where you come from, what's the word? I'm not thinking of the right word. It's along the lines of legacy and heritage. Do you know the word I'm trying to think of?
Your past,
your
lineage?
Your lineage. Thank you. Yeah.
Such a smiley word.
So the roots of it is in your ancestry, in your lineage.
Okay.
Your lineage. So sometimes you have a memory in your life. You're born in a way with a memory from past that you bring forward, and I think of it as it coming from your lineage. And then the full birthday, adding all the numbers together. In Western numerology, they think of it as your life path number. And in yogic numerology, it's called your transformation. How do I change my life?
Okay.
And so that's where I see the biggest parallel, because I don't really know Western numerology beyond reading Dan Millman's book 20 years ago. That the biggest parallel that I thought I saw was between your life path number and this number that we call the number of transformation that we have in numerology. So that's sort of like a synopsis of the five basic positions of your chart. And then you look at yearly cycles is another number that you'd look at in numerology.
I feel like I have 100 more questions for you about this. Good, just in my life and timing right now, it's so, I always answer the question, who am I? And I'm right now in this spot where I'm letting go of ancestral trauma and understanding that some of the stuff that came to me or has been part of my life was not mine, and I'm carrying it through for generations. And now I have to say, I just don't want to carry it anymore. I need to move forward with my own life. I need to be thank you guys for the lessons. But so we'll come back to that because that's a different episode, I feel.
That might be a one-on-one conversation.
Yes, please. I'm surprised we haven't had it. It's such a weird...
I've never done your numbers? Really
no. We've talked about them.
Okay.
Right? And the power of 10. And there's so many things. It's one of the things as I was writing my questions for you was that I feel like when you and I have conversations, I'm not in my own body. I say things, I'll do things and I'm wait, that's not... it's bigger than me when I speak with you about these things. And also you, I don't prep for you. You step into my life exactly when you need to. I don't question it. I'm oh, you're I'm down the street, I'm having breakfast, come. I'm done. The zero is it's a weird relationship that I have with nobody else. And I surrendered to it a lot easier than I do with anybody. So yeah, so we've talked about it, but we've never done it. So maybe this is the right timing. I mean, 2020, what a year. I'm happy to take some guidance.
Honestly, it totally Yeah, I could never have seen any of this coming. Never.
Okay, so let's talk about the 11:11 phenomenon. What is like? I'm calling it a phenomenon, but what is it? And like, I know in our conversations, you look at the clock, and when 11:11 shows up, you do something. So enrich us about this. Tell us about this.
Well, I mean, I don't know for other people. Like, I feel like this phenomenon started to be, at least to come into my awareness around 20 years ago, where there was like a number of us that would look at the clock and see 11:11 again and again. And then we started talking about it and like, isn't that kind of weird? And this was pre me knowing anything about numerology. So if you Googled that, you know, back then, which probably there was no Google, it was probably Yahoo or something, you would find a lot of information about 11:11 being a portal, 11:11 being like a portal of transformation, of manifestation. So in numerology, 11 is a master number, and it's a number of like transformation, manifestation, highest consciousness. If you think of like the 1 and 1 as like two pillars, so maybe that's where the portal idea came from. Like you're walking through a portal with these two pillars.
Ooh.
And you're you know, like moving from one consciousness into another consciousness. And I think from a yogic numerology perspective, that's the way I would explain it. It's like you're changing awarenesses, right? And the like the tradition of Kundalini yoga, like Kundalini yoga itself is considered the yoga of awareness. And the whole point of the practice of Kundalini yoga is to wake up the sleeping consciousness, which is symbolized by the coiled up snake at the base of your spine. That often is like, you know, our slumbering, like sleepwalking through life kind of consciousness, to like wake up to a bigger reality, a bigger understanding, a bigger awareness, a bigger purpose, essentially, so that we have more of a, I don't know, compass, that we're walking through life not in a dream like state and just following like the prescriptive, you know, what everybody else says you're supposed to do kind of living, and really, you know, wake up to our dharma, wake up to what we're here to do, what's our purpose. Numerology is really about helping you to find that map of your life. And the 11 is really about raising consciousness.
That's so amazing. Like in my head as a visual artist, it's like this gateway to walk in, and you come in, like, you know, like you come in from one side and you come out the other side. It's just slightly like a minute different. And, you know, as humans, like even just a minute difference makes a huge difference. Like, right? And if you, I don't know, I think just being aware of that and being able to dedicate that even 1 minute to be able to be consciously aware about that sounds fucking amazing. At the very least. And so is there a difference between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m.? Does that, like, this timing? No, timing of day doesn't matter. I guess the universe gives you two opportunities to be aware, so, which is beautiful. And so today's also Remembrance Day, 11/11. Is there any tie-in with that, or is this just a coincidence? I mean, there's never a coincidence. I feel like we agree on that. It's just like today, all morning, I've been hearing about Remembrance Day, at least we not forget. So I just like, I mean, do we make one up today? Like, what do you think there is a connection? What's our thoughts on it? Yeah.
When you asked the question, it just immediately popped into my mind, like, well, isn't that such a powerful portal? Like, these people, these soldiers literally opened a doorway for a new life for the whole world, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm done. That's it. I feel like I prescribe to it. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. And what a, like, it's great. You know, so November is the year, November is the month of like going back to be able to move forward, right? Isn't there, what's the,
Well, the way I look at it, like numerologically, when you look at numerology from a year-long perspective, um, October is the window into the following year. So everything that happens in October, I try to pay closer attention to,
okay.
because it's usually giving you like foresight, giving you kind of like a little preview of what the themes are going to be for the following year. So maybe that's what you mean. And then when you come back, when you get back into November, you're back into the now. So October kind of gives you that preview of what's coming next year. And then you're back in the energy of the current year, November and December, before you know, change into January to the following year.
Oh my God, it's so amazing. It's like, I feel like I need to go back to my journals of last month and just pay attention, because we talk about like, you know, the year ends and then you're like, how am I going to prepare? Like, I feel like December for me is like, how do I prepare for the next year? What am I going to do differently? Like, that's my, I guess it's an Eastern portal, right? Just like a 1 year ends, 1 year starts. But wow, I feel like for me, my November's been insanely amazing. And if that is the truth, I want to consciously bring all that into the new year. So,
That's
okay,
beautiful.
good. October, good to know. Okay. Um, so numerologically 2020, uh, which
Yeah.
would be, would like, tell us, give us your input into it.
So 2020 as a, like the archetype of the number, what it reduces to is 22-4. So you would have heard, if anyone follows numerology, any numerologists, it's been talked about really widely. The 22-4 is the archetype of the architect, the visionary architect,
Okay.
the person who sees the like really big picture, and in a way like creates blueprints that you then execute against, right? It's a visionary architect. So at the beginning of the year, everybody was like 22-4, like perfect, a 2020 perfect vision, and that fits with the visionary architect, the 22-4. And are we creating the template for a new world? Nobody in a million years imagined how the shakeup of the current paradigm template would be, that it would be through this global pandemic. But that's, crazily enough, it takes something like that to like really shake us out of our stagnation,
Mm-hmm.
out of our inertia. Like even in March, of course, I found myself in Mexico at the start of the pandemic. And when lockdown started, I was in Costa Rica. I landed there on, of course, Friday the 13th of March. And so I was in denial. When I got to Costa Rica, I'm like, there's no way the United States of America, the most capitalist country in the world, is going to allow the economy to halt. There's no possible way. So even I couldn't accept that someone like President Trump would concede to a lockdown where the economy essentially stops. And that's what it took, like, for the whole world to stop producing. And it took a virus that was killing people to say, okay, what's more valuable, human life or economics? And I don't think we couldn't have prepared for this. We couldn't have wrapped our minds around it. We couldn't have foreseen what it would take to make such a colossal shakeup of the current state of affairs. And it's sad that it takes that kind of, like, this is the first time where the world is experiencing the same thing at the same time. Like, sure, there's genocide in Rwanda for how many, God knows how long. We don't talk about it, think about it, know about it, feel it. It doesn't have anything to do with us.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first time that this touches everyone, everywhere equally, right? And it's the first time we really are all in it together globally. So it took something like that to shake up the status quo. And now I mean, I don't know, like who's the visionary architect here? Like, to me, it's like, it seems like the universe, right? The universe has some kind of plan we don't really have purview of. But I think so many of us are like, this doesn't work. Like how we are living in this world, on this planet, the fact that economic trumps humans is not, it doesn't work. It's not sustainable. So that's what 2011, like when you look at the 22-4, it's the visionary archetype is what it means. So I always like, yeah, I'll just stop there.
No, I think it's like you gave such a mouthful of stuff. It's so fantastic. I think you hit on so many right points that the universe was like I think a lot of people were like, Mother Nature came back and took her right back, which is like, bitch, you think let me show you what needs to be done, and also I think it was like, I'll give you 4 months without this. Look at how how I got a chance to rejuvenate lakes and fish and like bring, like things that you've ruined as a human being back. Like there's something magical about those few moments, right? And like we're in Winnipeg, we start lockdown as of tomorrow. Toronto, I know, is getting like, you're in the same, like we're all going back into the same spot. And I know everybody was like friends I've talked to, like they're like, oh, we've been here before, it's not a big deal. But we were here in March when the world was like, this was March, it was still sunny outside, like we were going from dark to light. This time is forcing us to go from light to dark. Like we're going to be in winter during Christmas holidays. Like it's a different mindset to be in. But like, I'm prepared, but I'm not prepared because it wasn't like the last one. It'll never be like the last one. We've evolved over the last couple of months. Like I'm not the same human being I was in March.
Yeah.
So it's like, like there's another lesson that's coming to us, and I'm so excited about it. I feel like I love when the universe teaches me things. I'm thriving for it. Like, it brings one, I think it makes me feel less crazy because I feel like there's things in my head that I've always thought were right. And then this proves it or shows it. And 2, it gives me a chance to test out things that I say out loud out of my mouth, but I don't actually practice.
Right.
So that's kind of like, how are you feeling about winter in lockdown? Winter in Toronto in lockdown, part 2. Right. Like, you can't go to Mexico this year, Zahra.
Well, there's always a way.
Yeah. Actually, if anybody knows Zahra Haji.
Very, very weird life that I have.
Yeah.
So I actually was very conscious last winter that I didn't want to travel. I didn't want to try to take myself out of winter. And I really wanted to, because seasonally, right, like this is what the work that I do now is very much based on the cycles and seasons and the energy of the feminine. And the earth cycle, actually women's cycles mirror the earth cycle. So all menstruating people have an inbuilt clock that mirrors the phases of the moon, the cycles of the earth, essentially the ebb and flow of the waves of the ocean. Like we're all feminine beings, all beings that have a womb and a menstrual cycle are literal mirrors for the feminine on the planet. So the archetype of the crone or the wise woman, which is the archetype of winter, is about retreat, hibernation, descending into the darkness, being with the hard stuff. I think of it for menstruating people. You might notice that when you go into your menstrual phase, you're often in a dark, like there's a darkening of energy, there's a heaviness, there's a sense of like withdrawal from the world, a sense of like slowing down and timelessness and like whatever. Like, you don't care about the mundane, everyday, go, do energy. And winter gives all of us that experience, right? Winter slows us all down, at least if you live in 4 seasons like we do. There's snow, there's ice, it's freezing. I mean, Winnipeg, I can't even imagine what the winter will be like. And what do? You go inside, you close the door, you put on a fire, it's quiet, you wear lots of clothes, you drink hot chocolate, you wear snuggly things, and it's quiet, right? And that's the energy of winter, that's the energy of menstruation, that's the energy of the crone. And so it actually goes, it's the right fit, right? To be in a lockdown situation where you're forced to be inward, you're forced to be quiet. If we don't distract ourselves by constantly being on social media or Zoom or whatever, and we allow ourselves to go into the shadow, into those hard places, because that's what, I mean, it's fascinating for me because I do this as a regular, like, this is my life. So I live like this. So for me, when the first lockdown happened, yes, it was hard. I'm not going to say it wasn't hard, but it wasn't hard for me the way it was hard for other people, because I do this anyway. Right? I go into the darkness and the depths, and I feel the pain and the suffering. And everybody did it at a, what's the word? Like communal level, right? We were all in that, forced into it. I do it willingly as part of, being someone who does work with, working with people and working with cycles. But when you're forced into it, it's very difficult, right? It's like, if you know the myth of Persephone being kidnapped and taken to the underworld against her will and raped and then turned into the queen of the underworld, you see that myth of transformation. And that's what being forced into the darkness, forced into looking at the parts of yourself that you try to avoid at all costs. We all had to do that. Like, that's what March was like for most people, right? So many people entered psychotherapy. Like, now I'm a therapist as well. So, how many people reached out to therapists to get help, because we're not equipped to do this kind of thing. Now at least we had a preview of that, so we're more prepared to go into it. But you're right, it's going to be different because the weather is going to create an environment where there isn't that kind of escape route in the same way.
Yeah, thank you for all of that. So, I feel like a few things that came into my mind. One was, I'm lucky because I get to work with Zahra on design projects. And, when you talk, I always joke how I'm a person who doesn't have a cycle, who knows so much about women's cycles and wombs. And we just finished the Living in Sync with Your Cycle project. I'll put a link somewhere in this site where you can go check it out, connect with Zahra on this, because even as a person who doesn't have a cycle, I learned so much and also connected, right? I was like, oh my God, this makes sense, because even though I don't have a cycle, if your cycle connects with the Mother Earth, I live in Earth and I have to somehow connect with it.
Totally.
And for me, what this does is I have walk with purpose here. Like, you walk in, we joke that Zahra walks, one of the things I call Zahra is walk with purpose. She can walk with purpose into a shopping mall, into a TIFF movie, into any Yorkdale party. She walks with purpose into life and into everything you do. You have this, I don't know, I don't even know how to explain it, but you have this ability to walk into anything and everything you do with purpose. You're and it's 9-inch stilettos, full goddess nature into a room. Where does that come from for you? And how, is there a point in life you remember that, or?
Well, I do remember. I actually remember where Walk with Purpose came from. I don't know if you know this. I used to have a best friend, Sabina Ahmed. Do you remember Sabina?
Of course, yeah.
So that was her saying, actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. She's like, forget about like lineups and like dealing with authority. Just walk with purpose, right? So, and it worked. It worked. Like you could even just like distract yourself. You're looking at a phone, you just walk, and everyone's like, well, she knows where she's going. She knows what she's doing. And so just let her be, kind of thing. If you look confused and like, where am I supposed to be? Where am I supposed to go? Then people will, you know, kind of like, I think you should go over there. Right. So that's where that, you know, it came from. So I like to give credit where credit's due. But
thanks, Sabina, for all of us, because it's filtered through me as well. I walk with purpose now because of that.
Yeah, but in terms of like what I teach in the world, I feel like, you know, coming back to the numerology that we were talking about and lineage. I don't know if I ever told you this, but growing up, my whole dad's family called me Dadima. Did I ever tell you that?
No, never.
Okay. So for those of you who don't speak our language, Dadima means grandmother. And so it would be my great grandmother, my dad's grandmother, and all his siblings would call me grandmother. And I'm a little girl, but I'm called grandmother, right? So I always had this weird projection, and then all my friends, and probably you're one of them, would make fun of me being like an old lady. So because I always had, like, I had scoliosis and back pain, so I always, you know, I never wore the 9-inch stilettos. I wish I could wear 9-inch stilettos, but you know, like having those funny creams that smell like, you know, menthol or whatever. What is the Chinese one? Something, do you remember Tiger Balm? Remember Tiger Balm?
Yeah, I love Tiger Balm. It's like saved my life regularly.
See, right, because now you all are in your 40s, but I was using that stuff in my 20s, right? So everyone made fun of me, okay? So not only was I called grandma by my dad's family, all my friends made fun of me for being an old lady and wearing like old lady shoes and like using Tiger Balm and whatever. So there was this archetype always that followed me around of the grandmother. And then I learned that this woman that everybody said I looked like was actually a healer, a midwife, a medicine woman, right? Literally a shaman of the community, and everyone knew her. And people would go to her for like tinctures and balms. And if they're having a baby, you know, she would deliver the baby. Like, that's who she was in the community. And she was powerful, it sounds like. And she was essentially a witch, right? She was a shaman and a witch, and she was feared, and she was, you know, admired. And when Yoga Goddess came to me, I don't know if you remember, because you were the first one who saw the drawing, right? Or at least probably the first 3 people. And I was meditating, and at the time I was actually trying to figure out what to call my business. I was just graduating from yoga school. I wanted to have a part-time business for yoga, for teaching yoga, but I didn't have a name. And I was working with a different designer, which was completely not the right designer for me, which later I figured out. And we were going through all these iterations, and I hated everything all the concepts she came up with because I didn't have the right name. Then I was sitting in meditation, and what came to me was the business should be called Yoga Goddess, and here's the logo. And I was dating someone whose friend was jokingly calling me the Yoga Goddess. And I thought it was cute, but it never entered my mind that that should be what I should call myself. And I thought, my God, isn't that like narcissistic? Like calling yourself the Yoga Goddess? Like, what does that even mean? And I had no understanding of anything about divine feminine or the goddess or anything like that. No idea. And so I drew the thing out. And back then we had fax machines. I faxed you. I don't even remember this. I faxed you the diagram.
Right.
In 2 days, Shafiq, in 2 days, you got me a splash page, the logo, And I was like, I can't believe this. I've been doing this thing for like a month with this other designer and I hated everything. And within 2 days, meditation, name, concept, and boom, it was done.
Right.
And we still have the same logo. The font has changed.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, it's lived since, that was 2000, I want to say 2006.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I think you were living with Naheed on the harbor front.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I feel like, well, first, a few things for people to know. Zahra Haji comes from, like, her grandmother had like 100 kids. Like, I feel like, right? So that, like, your dad's family has so many brothers and sisters, which now, having met other relatives of yours and other cousins of yours, this completely makes sense why this matriarch, this witchy matriarch, has produced so many great healers across the board, both male and female. And you were
and like non-binary, probably.
Right. Oh my God. Of course. Yes. Thank you. Has created all these great humans. Like these, I'm sorry, the terminology has changed so much. You're right. Non-binary, has, and will continue to, through you guys, will continue this legacy or this lineage, which is super exciting. And, I always say that my designs always come from somewhere else. And I think, we keep in our like, you're one of my very first clients. I didn't even know I was going to start a business when we were working together. I was like, oh, my friend Zahra wants this, and I intuitively feel it, go with it.
Right.
Right. So it was it was a different headspace, and here we are now as two entrepreneurs doing something completely, still working together here 20 years later.
Yeah.
2006. My math is bad, guys. 14 years later.
Right. It's
only
been 14 years. So.
Yeah. Is that? But it feels like lifetimes.
Like forever. Yeah.
And I think as you were learning, I was learning, right? So I feel like, I mentioned this earlier before the recording, is that like when Zahra and I were neighbors, pretty much roommates, we're just by one wall and a door. Zahra had like, I would wake up some days and have, I would have fruit missing from my house. I was like, wait, did I buy bananas for breakfast? And I'm like, oh, Zahra took it. Like it was always, so that's how close we were. But like as yoga goddess built.
And then they would reappear and you're like, am I crazy? The bananas were not here yesterday.
I was like, what kind of drugs am I doing today? Like, and I don't think I was exploring with drugs at that point either. So like, it was just so strange. But you're like, I feel like there's something, like I said, there's something about intuition in this relationship, right? Like it's just, there's something I can't, like, maybe now there's a tangible, maybe I need to look into my lineage to see like 100% someone in my family must be a witch, because there's something that's connecting in there. And also like, you're so committed to your intuition. Like I've never seen somebody in my life that says, this is what I want, and then you don't budge. Like there's something, I don't know where that comes from. You are like, this is it. And even though there's days where I'm like, I want to like scream at this woman, I can't, because I'm like, I've seen proof over and over and over in the 14 plus years that once you're committed to something, it has to be executed, and it's guided by the divine. Yeah. Right?
It's weird. I mean, in this last project we worked on together, I really realized, like, it's hard to work with me.
What?
Because I have such, like, it's so specific.
Right.
And it's not that easy to convey, but somehow we always end up figuring it out. Right. But when I tried to, like, bring someone else into the conversation, I realized, oh my God, as much as it's like we still have to, you and I still have to find our footing every time we work together, but there's a commitment to finding it, which maybe that's hard to do because it is intuitive. It is not so clear cut. It's not like, a brand like Coca-Cola or Gap. Like it's something that's being guided and that doesn't exist yet. So when we're working with something that doesn't yet exist, it's harder to bring it into manifestation because we don't have a template to work with.
But Zahra, it's not a brand like that yet, but it will be. Like I feel like that's my commitment to it as well, right? Like I'm like, oh, I don't, like, it's not there, but every time we do something, I'm like, oh my God, I don't have a blueprint of it either, but intuitively we're getting somewhere. Like it's gonna get there, and I'm so thankful to be part of the process because one, I learned so much about myself, and there's a weird, again, this surrendering of trust. I'm like, I just have to trust it. It's just gonna happen. right? And it's like, it'll be fun to talk about this in 10, 20 years again, to sort of see where it is. Because it's, I don't know, there's something really great about having you in my life for so long, and part of these things, so I can go back and be like, oh my God, do you remember this moment? And here, like, it's a way of appreciating or saying thank you for those times when we were like, okay, I think we're crazy. And then now 20 years are like, oh no, we weren't crazy, but we're actually on point. Thank God.
Yeah.
All right, so we're down to 47 seconds.
Ooh.
I know. I mean, okay, listen, Zahra's obviously Zahra's going to come back. We're going to talk more about this. I just want to let the people know that I'll put a link for Zahra's website and connect with her. She's amazing. Even though she doesn't wear 6-inch stilettos, she makes it look like she wears 6-inch stilettos when she walks into a place. I didn't know that. I didn't know you had scoliosis or any of that kind of stuff. I feel like I came into your life when like your goddess was emerging, because it helped me invite my goddess. So I'm thankful for the timing. So yeah, your mom was not there. Okay, so we're going to stop that. And so to wrap up our last minute, I'm going to give you one word and you're going to give me one word back. Ready?
Let's see.
You.
Me.
Love.
Divine.
Light.
Moon.
Goddess.
Energy.
Soul.
Timeless.
Mother.
Earth.
Thank you so much for this. I love you. I'm so excited we got to do this together. I'm so glad we've got to do this for the last 14 years and that we'll continue to do this. I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy day to tune in with us while our souls were exploring this thing called love and life.
Thank you.